Tell me what's going on.
Well, it was about 2 weeks ago now. I was going to work and I went and turned the key and nothing happened at first and then didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe I just didn't engage all the way. So I did that again and it fired right over. And I went to work that day and was leaving work at the end of the day and I did the same thing, only did it twice where it didn't want to turn over. And then the third time it popped right off and came home and went to go run some errands. And the same thing happened. 2 times it didn't work and the third time it did. And then I got to my last stop and then it just wouldn't, nothing. Like you turn the key and you get absolutely nothing. The lights would all come on, the radio would come on, the vents would start blowing. I turned everything off in case it was a power issue. I had a gentleman out there try to give me a jump, see if it was the battery thing. That didn't seem to do anything. My father-in-law came later with some more tools and another set of jumper cables. He tried jumping again, still nothing. Had to leave the car in the parking lot overnight. Came back the next day and had done some research on finding because I couldn't get it out of park to put it in neutral to try to push it further back in the parking lot for the night. So I did some research to find the switch for that. So I was able to get that with a screwdriver through the little plug hole by the shift knob. And as I was doing that, I happened to be just futzing with the key at the same time and it fired over. So then we drove it to a mechanic since it fired up and left it there, told them that same story I just told you, basically to say a little more detail on the places and parts, but overall the same idea. Left it with them over the last weekend. And then they said it's either maybe a transmission control module or some other issue, but they couldn't quite get it figured out, and they recommended I bring it to a Ford dealership. So I went and got it yesterday, and again, it wouldn't start in their parking lot. I went and borrowed a screwdriver from one of the mechanics to pop that switch, and then it fired up, and I was able to get it home. Then I, even with the screwdriver at home, couldn't get it to pop over, so then today after work, I took more of the paneling off around the shifter there so I can see the mechanics underneath. Found the switch, the lever itself, as opposed to trying to go through that little port on the top. And if I have the key in the off position and switch it into neutral and then try to start the car, it doesn't recognize it's in neutral and it won't start. But if I have the key in the on position and I do that shifter release and put it in neutral, and you can see on the dashboard where it's following what gear it's in, then it will start on the first turn of the key. No hesitation, no nothing. So as I'm doing some internet research, what I'm kind of coming down to is whether this is maybe a neutral safety switch, a shift linkage cable, or the transmission range sensor are the big ones that are coming up, with maybe the transmission control module or the brake light switch being alternate potentials. I'm just trying to figure out how to differentiate between them pretty much.
So you would basically have to check each one individually. And that's what we would have to do in the shop. We just run a specific test to a specific circuit or item or component, sensor, module, whatever the case may be, just to see what in the world's going on.
Right.
And we just do that until we get to the bottom. What's that?
I said versus just buying parts and slapping them in until you get the right one.
Correct. So what I would recommend, I think the easiest thing to do is get yourself a compatible scan tool. You plug it into the data link connector and just make sure that the transmission's in park. Make sure that it's reading on your live data that says it's in park.
What was that called again? The scanner?
It's called an OBD2 scanner, but you got to get one that reads live data. If you want, I can give you some recommendations in the chat.
Sure, that'd be wonderful just to have something to work with there. I just, like I said, I'm not a mechanic by any means, but I do a little bit of light mechanical here and just generally mostly replacement stuff as stuff wears and tears. But if they couldn't figure it out, I figured I'd take a little crack at it before bringing it into the dealership to have them look at it.
Another thing, too,
yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to mention is that the ignition switch goes bad all the time on these vehicles. So the ignition switch itself could be faulty. Let me read this to you. This is a 2013 Ford Fiesta. Customer concerned the engine will not crank over. Starter is not getting power. Test procedure. Access the body connector at the PCM and unplug it. Test the start circuit at this connector as per the attached illustration. If there is no power to this pin with the key in the crank position, check the power out the blue and white wire at the ignition switch with the key in the crank position. If there is no power out of the switch, unplug the connector and check for overheated pins. I'm thinking this is right at the ignition switch itself. Note, before replacing a suspected failed ignition switch, remove the ignition switch and activate the switch manually to see if it sends power out. There are cases where the ignition lock cylinder housing can prevent the ignition switch from being fully engaged.
Now, would it do that?
And on this,
would it matter again if it was in in park versus neutral, because the issue I've been having with it has been if it's in park. If I get it in neutral, it doesn't hesitate to start. I haven't had any no starts in neutral position for the transmission.
So good question. So the ignition switch should still work regardless of what position you're in. Just the only difference is the PCM wouldn't activate the starter relay, or in this case, it's called the starter inhibit relay. But you might be onto something. We could have an issue with that transmission switch, something going on there. Absolutely, that's very possible.
And what's frustrating for me with this is it's that it seems that once I get it to fire up in a neutral position, if I put the car in park and then I turn the car off, I can turn the key and it'll start right up 1 time, 5 times, 3 times, 0 times, but eventually it goes back to failing again. I have to put it back into neutral to get it to fire over. And I don't know, because since I'm not seeing anything, it's frustrating because sometimes it seems to want to work and sometimes it doesn't.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir, my friend. This is a mechanic's nightmare. This is what we deal with every single day in the shop.
Oh, yeah. So a scanner would be the place probably to start then to see what's coming out with that.
Yep.
Oh, let's see. What will be D2 scanner 5? Any in particular, like you said, you should put it in the chat, so I said it.
It really doesn't matter as long as it can read live data. What I would recommend, let me pull up what was on here. Autel makes a good scan tool. Foxwell makes a good scan tool. There's one called Blue Driver that is a really good seller right now.
Autel.
But depending on what your price range is, if you can get one, if you can spend up to $100, this Blue Driver is a really good deal. It basically it reads all the modules on board pretty much any vehicle, from what I understand. I haven't used it myself, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. Okay. And it's $89.95. It connects to your data link connector under the dash and connects to your iPhone or Android device via Bluetooth. And it'll connect with all the computers. It'll tell you what gear it's in under live data. It can read ABS, airbag codes, all that stuff. This thing's got 59.5K reviews. So almost 60,000 reviews. So let me tell you, I used to be an Amazon seller, and rarely anybody actually leaves feedback. So if there are 60,000 reviews, that means this thing is flying off the shelf because only 1 in 10 people are actually leaving a review, maybe. It's got 4.5 stars. Or you can get an Autel. Here, I'll get you a cheaper one here. Hold on. Go back up here. An Autel, AUTEL, is a good, here, $29.99. I can send you this link. It's AL319 code reader, enhanced check and reset engine fault. Live data. This reads live data for $29.99. It's got 25,000 reviews. I'll send you this one in the chat for you.
And I thought I saw the Foxwell one come up as I think it was 60 or 70 something. That's like a mid-grade, a mid price.
Yeah, Foxwell will work too.
Well, perfect. I think I'll probably start with the scanner and see what it tells me if it's having issues with whatever. At least it'll hopefully start pointing me in the right direction.
Exactly. Yep.
And then go from there, I guess. Well, thank you for the info. I guess I don't really know if I have any other questions at the moment.
And if something comes up, if you do have questions, you can just simply reply back in the chat, and I'll be happy to help you out.
Oh, perfect. All right. Well, perfect. I will go forward with trying to find one of these scanners and go from there, and we'll hopefully not have to be in touch, but be in touch if need be.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan, my friend.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. You bet. You're welcome.
All right.
Bye.